The sharp tang of alien flora filled the air, a blend of metallic undertones and faint sweetness. The twin suns of Kilothar 9 hung low in the amber sky, their light dappled by the dense canopy of an alien forest that seemed to hum faintly with life. It was here, in this otherworldly tableau, that Captain Serena Vance found herself standing awkwardly in a clearing, staring at a bundle of fur the size of a small dog that had just been dropped at her feet. The bundle, a cub with enormous, liquid black eyes and striped fur that shimmered like molten silver, blinked up at her. It emitted a sound somewhere between a chirp and a growl, a noise so oddly endearing that it made her heart clench in spite of herself. Behind the cub stood its mother, a towering predator with claws like scimitars and fangs that glinted ominously in the fading light. Serena froze, the plasma rifle in her hands lowering slightly. What am I supposed to do with this?" she muttered under her breath. Her crewmate, Dex Calhoun, leaned in cautiously, his wiry frame trembling with suppressed laughter. "Looks like you've been hired as a babysitter," he whispered. The predator, known as a Varlathan, made no move to attack. Instead, it fixed Serena with a piercing gaze, its pupils contracting to slits as it chuffed softly and nudged the cub closer to her boots with its massive snout. Serena's heart hammered in her chest as she tried to decipher the alien's intent. The Varlathans were known for being fiercely territorial and notoriously dangerous. That one would even tolerate a human's presence was rare. That it would trust a human with its offspring? Unheard of. "What did you do to deserve this honor?" Dex quipped, pulling out a small holorecorder. "Let the record show, Captain Serena Vance, fearless leader, guardian of space puppies." "Shut up, Dex," Serena hissed, but the tension in her voice betrayed her nerves. She tightened her grip on the rifle, half expecting the Varlathan to lunge at any moment. But the alien creature remained still, its body radiating a strange calmness. The cub chirped again and wobbled forward, collapsing clumsily against Serena's leg. She swallowed hard, her mind racing. Was this a test? A trick? Some elaborate Varlathan ritual? "Captain, this is weird." "Even for us," came the voice of Talia Quen, their ship's biologist, through Serena's comm unit. Talia's face appeared on the holographic display of Serena's wristband, her brow furrowed in academic curiosity. "Varlathans don't usually act like this. They're apex predators. Protective. Territorial. They eat creatures that look at their cubs wrong." "I'm aware," Serena replied, her voice clipped. "Any insight into what's happening here?" "Not yet," Talia said, chewing on the end of her stylus. "But I'm recording everything. Don't do anything stupid." "Too late," Dex muttered, earning a glare from Serena. Before she could respond, the mother Varlathan emitted a low, rumbling growl. It turned its massive head toward the shadows at the edge of the clearing, its ears flattening. Serena followed its gaze and felt a chill creep up her spine. Shapes were moving in the forest, dark, sinuous figures that slithered between the trees with unsettling grace. "What the hell is that?" Dex asked, his voice dropping to a whisper. Talia's voice crackled through the comm. "Those are umbrites. Opportunistic predators. Think wolves, but smarter. And venomous." As if on cue, one of the shapes broke from the shadows, stepping into the light. It was sleek and serpentine, with scales that gleamed like polished obsidian. Its eyes glowed faintly, and its maw split open to reveal rows of needle-like teeth. It hissed, a sound that seemed to vibrate in Serena's chest. The mother Varlathan growled again, louder this time, and Serena realized with dawning horror that it wasn't just protecting its cub, it was leaving it. "No, no, no," Serena muttered as the Varlathan began to back away, its gaze fixed on the advancing umbrites. The cub whimpered and pressed closer to Serena's leg. Captain," Dex said, his voice rising in pitch. "I think she's making a run for it." "She's not running," Serena snapped. "She's distracting them." The Varlathan let out a deafening roar and lunged toward the umbrites, its claws flashing. The predators hissed and scattered, but Serena knew it was only a matter of time before they regrouped. The mother was buying them a chance to escape. "Move!" Serena barked, scooping up the cub. Its fur was surprisingly warm against her chest. Dex, cover me. Talia, prep the ship for takeoff. Dex nodded, pulling his plasma pistol from its holster. On it. But just so we're clear, this is officially the weirdest day of my life. They broke into a run, the cub clinging to Serena as if its life depended on it, which, she supposed, it did. Behind them, the sounds of battle echoed through the forest, the Varlothan's roars, the hissing of the Umbrites, the sickening crunch of claws meeting flesh. Serena didn't dare look back. The forest seemed to close in around them, the undergrowth clawing at their boots. Serena's breath came in ragged gasps as she pushed herself harder, her mind racing. What kind of creature entrusted its offspring to a species it should consider prey? And why her, of all people? Captain, we've got incoming. Dex shouted, snapping her out of her thoughts. Ahead, a pair of Umbrites slithered into view, their eyes glowing like embers in the twilight. They hissed, their forked tongues flicking the air, and began to circle. Get behind me, Serena ordered, shifting the cub to one arm and raising her rifle. The weapon hummed to life, its barrel glowing faintly. She fired, the plasma bolt searing through the air and striking one of the creatures square in the chest. It shrieked and writhed before collapsing in a smoking heap. The second Umbrite hesitated, its head cocking to the side as if reconsidering its odds. Dex fired off a warning shot, and the predator slunk back into the shadows. Nice shot, Dex said, grinning. Keep moving, Serena replied, not in the mood for congratulations. The cub squirmed in her grip, letting out a series of plaintive chirps. We're almost there, she murmured, more to herself than the cub. The clearing where their ship, the Horizon's Edge, was parked came into view, its sleek silver hull gleaming in the dying light. Talia stood at the base of the ramp, waving them in. Hurry up, she shouted. We've got Umbrites coming from the north and west. Serena and Dex sprinted up the ramp, the cub still clinging to Serena like a fuzzy barnacle. Talia hit the controls, and the ramp began to retract just as the first of the Umbrites burst into the clearing. They hissed and snapped, their claws scraping uselessly against the ship's hull as the engines roared to life. Inside, Serena collapsed into a chair, the cub still in her arms. It looked up at her with those impossibly large eyes, chirped softly, and nuzzled into her chest. Well, Dex said, slumping into a seat across from her. That was fun. Define fun, Serena muttered, her mind still reeling. Talia crouched beside her, her gaze fixed on the cub. This changes everything, she said, her voice filled with wonder. If Varlothans are capable of this kind of trust, what else don't we know about them? Serena looked down at the cub, her heart heavy with questions she couldn't yet answer. The mother Varlothan's roars still echoed in her ears, a haunting reminder of the sacrifice it had made. Let's hope it was worth it, she said softly, her fingers brushing the cub's silken fur. Outside, the twin suns dipped below the horizon, casting the alien forest into shadow. But inside the ship, Serena felt the faint stirrings of something unexpected, hope. The hum of the ship's engines reverberated through the cabin, a steady rhythm that did little to ease Serena's nerves. She sat in the galley, staring at the cub perched on the table in front of her. It blinked at her with unerring focus, its head tilting in an almost comical display of curiosity. Do you have any idea what kind of trouble you've brought us into? Serena asked aloud, though she didn't expect an answer. The cub chirped in response, pawing at the edge of the table. It had stopped trembling since they'd made their escape, though Serena wasn't sure if that was a good sign or not. She was still grappling with the bizarre reality of her situation, entrusted with the offspring of one of the galaxy's most feared predators. Talia entered the galley, holding a datapad. Her face was lit with a mixture of excitement and concern. I've analyzed its DNA, she said, skipping any preamble. You're not going to believe this. Try me, Serena replied, leaning back in her chair. Talia slid the datapad across the table. The cub's genome is unusual. It's Varlothan, obviously, but there are anomalies, markers that suggest it's been modified. Serena frowned. Modified? How? I'm not sure yet, Talia admitted, her voice tinged with frustration. But it's not natural. Someone tampered with its genetic code. Why would anyone do that? Dex asked, leaning against the doorframe with a mug of something steaming in his hand. My guess? Talia said, crossing her arms. To make it smarter. More adaptable. Maybe even more docile. The cub chirped again, as if in agreement, and swatted at the datapad with its paw. Serena caught it before it could knock the device off the table. So, what? Serena said, trying to piece it together. The Varlathans didn't just randomly decide to trust us with their young. Someone engineered this thing to make it happen? Possibly, Talia said, nodding. But why they'd hand it to you specifically is another question entirely. I'm flattered, Serena muttered, though her voice was laced with sarcasm. She stood and began pacing the small room, her thoughts racing. This isn't just biology. There's politics here. Maybe even something bigger. Dex took a sip of his drink, his eyes narrowing. You think the Varlathans are in on it? Or is this some third-party experiment? Could be either, Talia said. Or neither. For all we know, the Varlathans could have just been desperate enough to roll the dice with us. Serena stopped pacing and turned to Talia. And the mother? What's her angle? She fought off those Umbrites, but it's not like she joined us. She could still be alive, Talia said, her tone cautious. But if she is, she'll want her cub back. That's assuming we can survive long enough to find her, Dex said darkly. Before anyone could respond, the ship lurched violently, throwing Serena off balance. She grabbed the edge of the table to steady herself, her heart skipping a beat. Warning, came the voice of the ship's AI, Cal, its calm tone in stark contrast to the situation. Unidentified vessel approaching at high speed. Scans indicate potential hostility. Serena exchanged a look with Dex. You jinxed it, she said, heading for the cockpit. Talia, secure the cub. Dex, with me. The corridor leading to the cockpit was narrow, the walls vibrating slightly as the ship's shields powered up. Serena slid into the pilot's seat, her hands flying over the controls. Dex took the co-pilot's chair, his expression grim. What are we dealing with, Cal? Serena asked. A holographic display flickered to life, showing a sleek, angular vessel bearing down on them. Its black hull was marked with crimson sigils, pirate markings. Serena swore under her breath. Pirates, Dex said, his voice tinged with disbelief. In Varlathan space? That's suicidal. Unless they're not here by accident, Serena said, her mind racing. Cal, hail them. The AI complied, and a moment later, the cockpit screen was filled with the sneering face of a pirate captain. His scarred features and mismatched cybernetic eye gave him a menacing appearance, but Serena was too irritated to be intimidated. Ah, Captain Vance, the pirate said, his tone mocking. Fancy running into you here. Cut the theatrics, Serena snapped. What do you want? The cub, of course, he said, his grin widening. Hand it over, and we might just let you live. Serena felt a surge of protectiveness she hadn't expected. Why do you want it? The pirate chuckled. Now, that's none of your concern. Let's just say it's worth more than your entire ship. Maybe even your entire crew. Not happening, Serena said firmly, cutting the transmission before he could respond. She turned to Dex. Weapons ready? Always, Dex replied, flipping a series of switches on the console. But let's not pretend we're outgunning them. Then we outfly them, Serena said, gripping the controls. Cal, plot an evasive course. Understood, the AI replied. The pirate ship opened fire, its plasma cannons lighting up the void. Serena pulled the ship into a sharp dive, the stars blurring as she pushed the engines to their limits. Dex managed the weapons, firing back whenever the opportunity presented itself. Where are we headed? Dex asked, his voice tight with focus. Anywhere but here, Serena replied. Talia, status on the cub? Secure, but not happy, Talia's voice crackled over the comm. What's going on? We've got company, Serena said, jerking the ship into a barrel roll to avoid another volley. Keep that cub safe. We're not losing it. The chase stretched on, the pirate ship gaining ground despite Serena's best efforts. Alarms blared as their shields took hit after hit. Serena's hands were slick with sweat as she tried to think of a way out. Captain, Cal said, I detect a gravitational anomaly nearby. It may provide an escape route, but it is highly unstable. How unstable? Serena asked. There is a 42% chance the ship will survive intact. Dex groaned. Those are terrible odds. It's better than zero, Serena said, setting a course for the anomaly. Brace yourselves. The ship shuddered violently as they entered the anomaly, the gravitational forces pulling at its hull. Serena fought to keep them steady, her teeth clenched in concentration. Behind them, the pirate ship hesitated, its captain clearly unwilling to take the same risk. Come on, Serena muttered under her breath. Hold together. Finally, with a deafening roar, they burst through the other side of the anomaly. The cockpit was eerily silent, save for the hum of the engines. Serena let out a shaky breath, her hands trembling as she released the controls. Status, she asked. Shields at 20%, Cal reported. No significant damage to the hull. Dex exhaled loudly. I can't believe that worked. We're not out of the woods yet, Serena said. Talia, how's the cub? Alive, Talia replied. And I think it likes you, Captain. It won't stop chirping your name. Serena frowned. What do you mean? I mean it's mimicking your speech patterns, Talia said. It's learning. Serena stared at the comm unit, a sinking feeling settling in her gut. This wasn't just a cub. It was something far more dangerous, and far more important. The dim lighting in the cockpit flickered as the ship adjusted to normal space. Serena's grip on the controls relaxed, though her nerves were anything but calm. They had escaped the pirates, but the reality of their situation weighed heavily on her shoulders. The cub nestled against Talia's chest in the galley, oblivious to the tension coursing through the ship. Its occasional chirps were almost soothing, almost. We need answers, Serena said, breaking the silence as she turned her chair toward Talia and Dex. If this thing, she gestured to the cub, is as valuable as those pirates made it seem, we're sitting on a ticking time bomb. Talia nodded, her face pale. I've been digging through the genetic data. It's not just about intelligence or behavior modification. There are markers here that suggest this cub might be a key. A key to what? Dex asked, leaning forward, his elbows on his knees. To Varlothan communication, Talia said, her voice almost reverent. Their language is famously impenetrable, a mix of physical gestures, vocalizations, and pheromones. But this cub? It's already showing signs of mimicking us, adapting to our communication. That's not just rare, it's unprecedented. Serena leaned back, processing the implications. You're saying someone engineered this cub to bridge the gap between humans and Varlothans? Exactly, Talia confirmed. But it's not just about communication. If the Varlothans start cooperating with humans, it could change the balance of power across entire sectors. Dex whistled low. No wonder the pirates want it. And no wonder the mother was willing to sacrifice herself to keep it safe, Serena added, her voice tinged with guilt. She thought back to the Varlothan's desperate roar, the fierce determination in its eyes. It wasn't just protecting its offspring, it was protecting something far greater. Before anyone could respond, Cal's voice interrupted. Incoming transmission from an unidentified vessel. Serena's heart sank. More pirates? Unlikely, Cal replied. The ship matches no known pirate signatures. It is a Varlothan vessel. The tension in the room spiked. Talia's eyes widened, and even Dex looked shaken. A Varlothan ship? That's impossible. They don't. They do now, Serena interrupted, her voice sharp. Put them through, Cal. The cockpit screen flickered to life, revealing a Varlathan seated in a dimly lit chamber. Its striped fur glowed faintly, and its amber eyes locked onto Serena with an unsettling intensity. The alien made a series of guttural growls and clicks, its ears twitching as it leaned closer to the camera. "Translation initiated," Cal announced. "Please stand by." A moment later, the Varlathan's voice was replaced by a deep, resonant tone. "Humans. You carry something that does not belong to you." Serena's stomach twisted. "We didn't take it," she said quickly. "The cub's mother left it with us. She was protecting it from umbrites." The Varlathan narrowed its eyes. "A likely story." "It's the truth," Talia interjected, stepping into view. "We've been analyzing the cub's genetic code. We know it's been altered. Someone created it to bridge the gap between our species." The alien paused, its gaze flicking toward something off-screen. "You are not wrong," it said finally. "But you do not understand the danger you are in." "What kind of danger?" Serena asked, her voice firm despite the knot in her chest. The Varlathan growled low, a sound that vibrated through the cockpit. "The cub is more than a bridge. It is a symbol, a beacon. If it falls into the wrong hands, it could be used to manipulate my people, to control us." Serena's blood ran cold. So the pirates weren't just after a payday. "They serve those who seek domination," the Varlathan confirmed. "Return the cub to us, and we will ensure its safety." "And how do we know you won't just exploit it yourselves?" Dex asked, crossing his arms. The alien's ears flattened, a clear sign of offense. "You dare question our honor? It is your kind that has tampered with life itself, not ours." Serena held up a hand. "Enough. Look, we're not handing over the cub to anyone until we know it'll be safe. But we need to trust each other, or none of us are getting out of this alive." The Varlathan stared at her for a long moment before nodding slowly. "You are brave. Foolish, but brave. I will send coordinates. Meet us there, and we will negotiate." Before Serena could respond, the transmission cut off. The cockpit fell silent, the weight of the conversation pressing down on everyone. "This feels like a trap," Dex said finally, breaking the silence. "It might be," Serena admitted. "But what choice do we have?" Talia glanced down at the cub, which had fallen asleep in her arms. "If we do nothing, the pirates will catch up to us eventually. At least this way, we stand a chance." Serena nodded, determination hardening her resolve. "Cal, plot a course to those coordinates." "Coordinates received," Cal replied. "Course plotted. Estimated arrival, 6 hours." The journey to the rendezvous point was tense. Serena barely left the cockpit, her mind running through every possible scenario. Dex ran routine checks on the weapons systems, muttering under his breath about the odds of surviving an ambush. Talia, meanwhile, stayed with the cub, monitoring its vitals and trying to decipher more of its genetic secrets. When they finally arrived, the sight that greeted them was both awe-inspiring and intimidating. A massive Varlathan ship hovered in the void, its sleek design resembling a predator poised to strike. It was flanked by smaller vessels, their weapons bristling with silent menace. "Okay," Dex said, his voice tight. "I'm officially regretting this." "Too late now," Serena said, steering the ship toward the docking bay. "Let's just hope they're as honorable as they claim." The docking process was surprisingly smooth, and soon Serena, Dex, and Talia found themselves standing on the deck of the Varlathan ship, the cub nestled in Talia's arms. A group of Varlathans awaited them, their eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. The leader stepped forward, its fur marked with intricate patterns that denoted high rank. It studied the humans intently before speaking. "You have done well to bring the cub here," it said. "But this is only the beginning." "What do you mean?" Serena asked wearily. The leader's gaze darkened. "The ones who created this cub will not stop. They will come for it, no matter where it is hidden. And when they do, they will bring war." Serena's stomach dropped. "Then we have to stop them before that happens." The Varlathan tilted its head, a gesture of respect. You are bold, human. Perhaps bold enough to succeed. But know this, if you fail, the consequences will be catastrophic, for both our species. Serena nodded, determination burning in her chest. She didn't know how they were going to pull it off, but one thing was clear. They had just become part of something much bigger than themselves. The Varlothan leader's words lingered in Serena's mind as the humans and Varlothans sat across from one another in the ship's stark negotiation chamber. The air was heavy with unspoken tension, the weight of their shared predicament pressing on everyone in the room. The cub rested on Talia's lap, seemingly oblivious to the gravity of the situation as it pawed at her hand, chirping softly. The leader, whose name they had learned was Gerald, leaned forward, his claws tapping lightly against the metal table. The ones who created the cub are part of a faction known as the Varaxi Consortium. They are scientists without morals, traitors without ethics. Their ambitions extend beyond profit. They seek to reshape entire ecosystems, cultures, and species for their gain. And now they've set their sights on you, Serena said, her voice steady. Why now? The Varlothans aren't exactly easy targets. Gerald's amber eyes narrowed. The cub's creation marks a turning point. By engineering a creature capable of bridging our languages, they aim to control how we communicate, how we think, and ultimately, how we act. They intend to use this cub as leverage to manipulate our alliances. And let me guess, Dex said dryly, the pirates we ran into work for them. Gerald gave a short, sharp nod. They are pawns. The consortium uses such mercenaries to do their bidding while keeping their hands clean. Talia stroked the cub's fur, her face a mask of concentration. The cub doesn't just bridge communication, it's designed to foster trust. Its pheromones alone could alter behavior, lower aggression. If weaponized, it would make entire species docile, Serena finished, the realization dawning on her. That's why they'll stop at nothing to get it back. Gerald straightened, his imposing figure towering over the table. Which is why we must act now. The consortium's main research facility is located on a remote moon in the Rilith system. It is heavily guarded, but if we strike swiftly and with precision, we can destroy their data and cripple their operations. Destroy the data? Talia asked, her voice rising. But the cub, its potential is enormous. What if we use the information to help foster peace between our species? Gerald growled low in his throat. You misunderstand, human. This knowledge is a weapon. Its existence invites exploitation. It must be erased. Serena held up a hand. Let's not argue about the ethics right now. If we're going to do this, we need a plan, and fast. How many ships can you spare? 3, Gerald said. But stealth will be our greatest asset. The consortium's defenses are formidable. A direct assault would be suicide. Dex leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. So, a heist. Infiltrate the facility, take out their data, and get out before they know what hit them. Precisely, Gerald said, his voice rumbling with approval. Serena exhaled sharply, her mind already working through the logistics. Fine. Let's do it. But if we're going in blind, we need a way to even the odds. Talia, anything you can use from the cub's genome? Talia hesitated, her gaze flicking to the cub. It's possible. If I can isolate its pheromone-producing genes, we might be able to synthesize something to disrupt the consortium's personnel. Make them less aggressive. That sounds risky, Dex muttered. Everything about this is risky, Serena shot back. Do it, Talia. We need every advantage we can get. Hours later, the humans and Varlothans stood in the cramped cargo hold of the Horizon's Edge, reviewing the final mission details. Talia worked feverishly at a portable lab station, vials and holographic screens spread out before her. The cub sat beside her, watching curiously as she worked. Serena adjusted her tactical vest, her gaze sweeping over her crew. All right, listen up. This isn't just about the cub anymore. If we pull this off, we don't just stop the consortium, we stop them from using this tech against anyone else. Dex tightened the straps on his plasma rifle. And if we don't? Then we make sure they regret ever crossing us, Serena replied, her voice firm. She turned to Gerald. Your team ready? Gerald inclined his head. We fight for more than ourselves, human. We fight for the survival of our people. Then let's get to it, Serena said. The moon in the Rilith system was a barren, inhospitable wasteland, its surface covered in jagged black rock. The consortium's facility loomed in the distance, a sprawling compound of gleaming metal domes and watchtowers. The humans and Varlathans approached under cover of darkness, their ships landing silently on the far side of a ridge. Serena led the team down a narrow ravine, her pulse pounding in her ears. They reached the base of the facility, where Talia pulled out a small device and began hacking into the perimeter defenses. 30 seconds, Talia whispered, her fingers flying over the controls. The seconds dragged on, each one feeling like an eternity. Finally, the security grid flickered and went dark. We're in, Talia said, stepping back. The group moved swiftly, slipping through the facility's outer corridors. Serena's heart raced as they approached the main lab, where the consortium's data was stored. The air was heavy with tension, every shadow a potential threat. Inside the lab, rows of servers hummed quietly, their screens glowing faintly in the dim light. Serena signaled for Gerald and his team to secure the exits while Talia began uploading a virus to wipe the servers. Make it quick, Serena urged, her eyes scanning the room for any sign of trouble. Suddenly, alarms blared, and red lights bathed the lab in an ominous glow. A squad of consortium guards burst in, their weapons trained on the intruders. Hold them off! Serena shouted, raising her rifle. Gerald and his team lunged into action, their claws and plasma weapons cutting through the guards with brutal efficiency. Dex and Serena provided cover fire, the sound of their weapons echoing through the chamber. Talia worked furiously, sweat dripping down her brow. Almost there, she shouted over the chaos. An explosion rocked the facility, sending debris raining down. Serena turned to see another wave of guards pouring in, their numbers overwhelming. We're out of time! Dex yelled. Talia pulled the cub close, shielding it from the debris. The virus is loaded, but I need 30 more seconds. Then you've got it, Serena said, charging toward the guards to buy Talia time. She fired relentlessly, her movements a blur of desperation and determination. Finally, Talia shouted, "It's done! Let's move!" The group fought their way back to the exit, the cub chirping loudly in Talia's arms as if urging them on. Gerald covered their retreat, his roars echoing through the corridors as he took down the last of the guards. They burst out of the facility just as another explosion ripped through the compound. Serena didn't look back as they sprinted to the ships, adrenaline driving her forward. Once aboard the horizon's edge, Serena collapsed into the pilot's seat, her breath ragged. The facility burned on the moon's surface below, its data, and its dark potential, reduced to ash. In the galley, Talia cradled the cub, her expression a mix of exhaustion and relief. "It's over," she whispered. "For now," Serena said, joining her. She looked down at the cub, its bright eyes staring back at her. "But if this little guy taught us anything, it's that there's always hope." Gerald's voice came through the comms. "You have proven yourselves today. The cub is safe, and the consortium has been dealt a blow they will not recover from easily. You have our gratitude." Serena smiled faintly. "We couldn't have done it without you." As the ship drifted into the void, the stars glittering outside the viewport, Serena allowed herself a rare moment of peace. The battle was over, but the journey was far from finished. And for the first time in a long time, she felt ready for whatever came next.